Women think men are incapable of being intimate. Your capacity for intimacy is phenomenal. Women suck equally at relationships, and everyone sucks equally at relationship because the secret is,
what do men most deeply want from a woman?
you want from us that we would be a place where you can just be you.
I think in this modern world, we are hypersensitive to attack.
There's nothing wrong with a man's compulsion to conceal anything that could be used against him. The good news is, whatever we think about you guys, it cuts us off from so many ways that you could contribute to us if we were willing to appreciate that you're going to do it differently than me.
So Alison, how are you doing? Welcome to the podcast. Incredibly happy to have you here today. Someone I've followed for a really long time. I loved your work and the perspective you bring to the area of kind of relationships and men. It's a very unique perspective in the world that we live in today. And I guess the first question that really I'm intrigued about, and I imagine the listeners are, is, I know you started this work way back in 1991. I've listened to enough of you to know that. And, you know, you started with this idea of seeing that you were kind of bringing the worst out in men. And one of the things I saw you say in a podcast as well was that you thought you could learn about men in like 3 to 4.5 months. You thought you'd know it all by that point. But I guess what I'm curious about is, outside of what I've just said, what sparked your kind of passion? And even what keeps the passion going as well, because 1991 was a while ago, to keep learning and keep understanding men over and over again?
Oh my gosh. There's at least a couple of things. One is that you're fascinating. Like, and you know what, most women think of men, I don't think could be more wrong. Right? That you're shallow, superficial, self-centered, non-committal, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Don't care about what we need. It's just, once there's been so many labels that have come up across the time that I've been doing this. And when narcissism hit the streets, for most women, they interpret all men as narcissists. And yeah, unless you do exactly what they want you to do. And anticipate their every need and expectation and fulfill it happily, regardless of what that might do to your life. Before that, there was the term unhealthy men. And women were just certain that a healthy man was rare. And there's actually one of the things on our website under free stuff is Unhealthy Men, The Secrets of Early Detection. I created it because I had to hit this thing hard. And it distinguishes how that's actually a really good reason for men's behavior that is completely healthy. And it's how women interpret it that have them decide that men are unhealthy because, again, and you must have heard this many times, because you don't do what a woman would do. And you certainly don't do what a perfect woman would do. And so unraveling that, and even, and I've been doing this for almost 35 years. I thought I was wrapping things up, and I'll come back to it. Let's put a pin in it. I heard something, read it. I was so shocked that I can't attribute it appropriately. Like my memory just fuzzed out. And it had me realize that, like, I thought men were this little thing, simple thing to understand. Actually, 2 to 3 months I thought it would take. And then I realized, like, at first I thought it was like this little tunnel maybe. And then I came out and I thought it was a broader tunnel. And then as the lights started to turn on, oh my gosh, this is a cave. This is, whoa, it's wider and it's deeper and it's higher than I thought. And so I've been exploring this cave for so long and revisiting the same things over and over again, like single focus, because it keeps revealing more and more. And then in May, I realized with this thing that was said that there's a whole other cave behind this cave. And it affects everything. And as I've been saying to men, what these words that I heard, I keep being thrown back in my seat because every man's reaction is, well, yeah. Just, so we'll come back to that. What was that? And it's so huge for women to know it's completely in the blind spot, completely unthinkable to us. And so that's a part of it. And then the other part of it is that I'm mission driven, and I think I was born an activist. And the what I call the harmonic convergence is when my work as an advocate for the hungry and the homeless and children, because where I did this, 50% of the homeless are children, my advocacy in that, and I was a real shit stirrer, but effective, thank goodness. It ran into this realization that as long as, well, how I thought about it when it first happened, which was in December of 1994, which is, we did our first workshop in 1995, was that as long as we were undercutting the compulsive problem solvers of the world, as long as we were emasculating men, then we'll never solve the real problems. Right? As long as men are focused on how do I get out of this conversation with my balls, we're not going to get anywhere. And let alone solving problems that we're perfectly capable of solving. And the way that I think about it now is if we weren't so busy protecting ourselves. And this morning I just had this thought because I've started to engage. I'm writing the sequel to the Queen's Code, and I don't write it, I download it. And it just, the first chapter is amazing. It's amazing. Like I just weep. It's so beautiful. And then I couldn't go on. And I didn't know why I couldn't go on. And then I heard this thing in May and realized, oh my gosh, I can't hear the King's Code. I am missing pieces. I can't receive it because of my blind spots. And so I threw myself back into interacting with men in the way that I was studying men, like so actively for so long. And part of that throwing back in is being part of an ongoing podcast with 4 men, 2 of which are political animals, one of them's a political titan. And realizing this morning that one of my students would call it fractal because she loves that concept of that it exists in the small, in every little tiniest particle all the way out. But I got to see it. Oh, what happens in relationship where people are protecting themselves, which prevents us from solving problems because we're not going to tell the truth in the first place, which is, it's not a character flaw. It's an instinctual overriding compulsion, which we can talk about. But I got to see it. So this thing that goes on in human personal relationships is the same thing that is happening on the whole planet, in geopolitics, that there's, I mean, it reminds me, I forget the name of the book, very famous book about if we're spending all our resources defending ourselves, there's nothing left to progress. So, and it is happening at every single level. And I've encountered it as an activist, which used to be really political, as an activist, encountering at every single level what people weren't willing to do because of what they were protecting. So I'm still ending hunger by having us empower each other and bring out the best in each other, instead of having each of us retract into protecting our everything from our identity to our territory to our tribe and beyond.
Yeah.
It keeps me going. And I imagine, 30 years from now, I'll still be going.
Yeah, because as you said, it's everything, right? Our instinct to protect is weaved in, as you said, there's a fractals, is weaved into everything. You see it from the conversation that someone has when they walk in to buy a coffee, right? A man walks in to buy a coffee, yes, and it's not clear to maybe the average onlooker that there's a protection mechanism going on him. He doesn't want to be judged. He doesn't want to look stupid. He doesn't want to be embarrassed anyway. And maybe he goes in, he's kind of cold, and he goes, hey, can I get a macchiato? And barely looks at anyone, barely says anything, right? His protection there, I'm kind of bringing it down into like the really day-to-day level, because I see this with men. It's like the protection is he trying to protect his sense of self. He doesn't want to feel the feelings and emotions that make him feel lesser than. And to shield himself, he closes himself off to connection and interaction and feeling and emotion of other people. But that can feel like an attack when he's maybe communicating with other people, but it's actually his form of defense.
Yes, it can be, definitely, it can be interpreted that way, but may I add something to what you said?
Of course.
So on top of everything you said that's being protected, he's also protecting his energy and his time and his resources. And it's something women don't know. They don't know that men have an acute awareness of the passing of time and the spending of energy and the use or loss of resources. They're acutely aware. And a huge aspect of that, and this is a way that women are just like, what the heck? And this was such a, oh my gosh, so many revelations since 1991. But I heard this, but I didn't actually experience at the physical level until about 10 years ago, that to care, for a man to care, that's your biggest expenditure of energy. It's your biggest expenditure, and that you're aware of how much energy it'll cost to care. So it shows up in the simplest interaction. Honey, do you want chicken or fish? I don't care. To a woman, that's unthinkable. How could you not care about that? Or things that men say they don't care about. We think you're too stupid to know you should care. You're too lazy to care. And no, I don't care means I'm unwilling to care. I'm not willing to care. I'm not going to invest my life force in chicken or fish. And what women also don't know, because we're so paying attention to your preferences, we can please you, is that what to you is obvious, which another way that you protect energy is the override. There's no point in stating the obvious. There's no point in stating the obvious. That's a waste of time and energy, stating the obvious. And it might even be insulting to state the obvious. So you guys don't finish the sentence. I don't care. Please yourself. That's the rest of the sentence. I don't care, please yourself. So instead, we're all messed up by that you not telling me what you prefer when your intention is actually to free us up. Please yourself. Do whatever you want to do, hon. So, oh my gosh, and the instinct. So can I back up a little bit just in terms of how
Of course.
think of this? And some people may think, oh, I already heard this. If they watch or do the videos, you cannot engage with this too much. So as I've been unwinding this, and this really kicked in when we started providing programs for men, it's called Being an Extraordinary Man, was that there's a hierarchy of instinct. And the hierarchy is procreate, then protect, then provide. So what that means is there's a trump that happens. Can't even use that word the way we used to word. So procreate, it's always going to be the number one priority. Always, 100% of the time, it will overtake. And it overtakes protect. And you can see this in every species. Every species risks their lives in order to reproduce. A stallion is circling the herd, looking out for danger to protect the future of his seed until he smells a mare in heat. And then he goes insane. He's completely distracted. It doesn't matter. I mean, bring on the wolves. He's not gonna he's not gonna notice. And it's it's oh gosh, I so want women to know this. That what we want men is to be in a state of provide, in a state of giving to us and take caring of us and looking out for us and making sure we don't starve and we're not eaten by the tiger. That's what we want the most. But that what we do unintentionally and sometimes intentionally is we do something that is perceived by a man as an attack. And it depends on what it's perceived as the attack is on. If she went out and blew a bunch of money on credit cards, the attack is on the financial well-being, right, of our future. And if she makes it personal, she says something like, "You're just like your father," right? Like, or why can't you be more like, right? A comparison to another person. And what did you do that for, right? So if it's perceived as a personal attack, now he's protecting himself. And which is what you were talking about before. He walks in, he's just looks like he's ordering coffee. He's protecting himself. When are men protecting themselves? Well, for sure, once they walk out the door. When they come out of their cave, they're protecting themselves. And even worse than that is if they have to protect themselves within the cave, because who they've let in to it. And it's instinctual, and which is both the good and the bad news. It's hardwired. It's hardwired. It's not going away. The good news is that means it's not personal. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with a man's compulsion to conceal anything that could be used against him, whether used against him in an attack or used against him in manipulating him to waste his time, money, or energy, right? Anything that could be used against him. And that's also opens up this whole area that to the degree that a man perceives a threat is how present concealment is going to be. And one of the things that men taught me is the stronger you feel within yourself, physically, mentally, spiritually, the fewer things occur as a threat, which allows you to be in the world authentically, allows you to be in the world open, receptive, connective, which women want to connect so desperately with men, both in a instinctual way and spiritually, because oh my gosh, we were made for each other, and we don't know, we keep causing what we don't want. And one of the ways which I talk about it a lot, because procreate is the first instinct, women instinctually appeal to men that way. We instinctually lead with sexuality in order to get you, in order to get your attention, which we think your attention will lead to affection. We don't know that those happen in two different domains. Affection does not happen in procreate. It doesn't happen there. It's not instinctual affection. Affection is an expression of the heart, of the spirit, right? This is how, like, fundamentally we keep bringing out the worst in men. We appeal to the most primal instinct, which is going to override protect. And for sure, all the ways we antagonize overrides provide, including providing connection, providing receptivity, providing affection, providing, like, women think men are incapable of being intimate. Your capacity for intimacy is phenomenal, but that's not going to happen in procreate or protect. It ain't ever going to show up there. Okay, can you see? I could go on and on, and I. Okay, might I say one more thing? We're going to say one more thing. I'm going to get to the point.
Of course,
I can get to the point. It's foolish for women to interpret concealment as there's something wrong with that person, that man especially. We do a different thing with conceal and reveal. So it's foolish to interpret it as personal, and it's also, I want to say ridiculous, but that's what my mother would always call me when when my visionariness showed up, even as a child, what I thought was possible in the world, and started expressing it at 6 years old. Oh, don't be ridiculous. We make a huge mistake, both men and women. We make a huge mistake thinking we are entitled to honesty, that we are entitled to you revealing yourself. Instead of that, I've got to earn it. I've got to earn your revelations by demonstrating that I will not use them against you. I won't use them against you by recycling them, throwing them back in your face to have an impact. I won't use them against you to manipulate you. I won't use them against you to assume that means something that I can count on without talking to you about it. And I won't, and this is what women miss all the time, I won't reveal it to anybody else, which women are compelled to reveal the revelations to others in order to enhance their status. Look how special I am that he told me that. Instinct. It's a herd and pack instinct, and since we're both prey and predator, we're herd and pack animals. Okay, I'm going to stop myself. Where do you want to go now?
Yeah, I'm just thinking that, you're talking about instinct, and so I'm hearing in there, I'm assuming what you're saying for women, the instinct is safety, is cultivating safety for themselves.
Absolutely.
Like even in what you said there
100%.
about in sharing information, that creates safety for the herd, for the pack. And as you were saying this, there's these instincts that we both have of safety on one side, and then obviously the procreate.
They're just, since women are listening, in order to understand what you're doing with men here, they may not make the connection, but that you just made to safety, because in between, we first have to become conscious of something else in our blind spot, even though it's happening all the time, is that there's a connection between status and safety. That as herd and pack animals, your status determines your access to food and water and shelter and even reproduction. Like in a wolf pack, only the alpha male and female mate. Period. Nobody else gets to reproduce. And in a herd of horses, the status of a mare determines if the other mares deem you worthy of mating. And they'll literally kick you out from under the stallion. Like break ribs to make you run away from him if you don't have high enough status. And this shows up in human behavior. As a woman, the man that they want, her greatest threats are his sisters, his mother, and his female friends, because they are the ones that are going to vote on her if she is worthy of him, right? So you made the connection instantly, right? Between, oh yeah, tell secrets, elevate your status, you're paying attention to safety. Most women will not make that jump. We had to connect the dots in between. So thank you for letting me. And then please keep going.
Yeah. And because we're paying attention to women for safety, men for this kind of procreate, protect, provide. So we're looking for attack, we're protecting. And you talked about perceptions, because our perception, especially I think in this modern world, we are hyper sensitive to attack. We've almost become overly sensitive to perceptions of attack, in the way that anyone critiques us, for instance, like sometimes, I see this for myself and even the men I speak to, our partner asking us questions about the thing we're doing tomorrow or doing later or doing now can be felt as like, oh, I'm being critiqued, I'm being attacked for my choice to go and watch the football tomorrow, for example. Or for women, for instance, that a man moves in a certain way or doesn't reveal. He's holding his truth back a little bit because he's like, oh, I don't know you, or whatever it may be. It's like, oh, I'm now not safe. Is there an element to kind of what you're saying in that we are obviously looking for safety, we're both looking for safety and protection, but we become a bit oversensitive to evidence of attack from outside or the kind of quote unquote other?
I think some of us are. It is innately so automatic. The perception of threats and opportunities, which opportunities turn into threats almost immediately. What if I blow it, for example? I'll waste my energy on that, right? So it's that energetically what happens in the body and the mind with the perception of threats and opportunities. But I would say yes, I think we've always been hypersensitive. And I could give you example after example, but I'll spare you. Like, just think of the seat that you pick when you walk into a restaurant. Do you want your back to the wall? That a woman, a public bathroom, a woman is like checking to see, is there a critter in that stall? She doesn't even realize she is. But if a woman just walked out and she's safe and the door's open and she can see it's empty, that's the only time she can just walk in. Otherwise, she's tentative. I mean, this is all, we don't even examine it. And I don't want to demonize social media, but we used to just have to pay attention to threats in our immediate vicinity, our tribe, our territory. But when we open ourselves up to commentary. And I was advised about 20 years ago, don't read your press. Just don't. And every once in a while I'll violate that. Like I'll read a comment on a podcast that I did, and not good. It was very good advice. But the good news is, and this is really one of my goals. My goals is for one of my goals is for women to become impervious to, as much as they can, and where they're not impervious, intolerant of criticism, because we are more deeply affected by criticism than men. We have no shields against criticism the way that you do. And so for women to understand the good reasons for why they do what they do, and not allow themselves, including their inability to handle criticism, and just not be open to what they're going to experience as an attack. There are other solutions too. I've actually gotten to the place where I don't recognize I'm being attacked. Because the way that I'm listening, actively listening, it's filtering. What I'm filtering for filters out me feeling attacked. And I found that out about a year ago when I was really attacked. And I didn't notice for 2 days. When I was replaying the video of it, like, oh, he was attacking me. But the whole time I was listening, I was just listening what matters to him, what's important to him, what's true for him. I was listening to learn. So even while I was saying shit about me and my people, I was just learning about him. And it was amazing. It was amazing. So yeah, so I would have men, like, it's why I love men listening to the Queen's Code, which listening is so much more important than reading it, because A, how men process a woman's voice. And I don't write books. They're channeled. So the Queen's Code was a movie I watched, and in the audiobook, I recreate the movie. And I can't help, I'm not an actor, I'm not a voice actor, but I can't not try to convey with everything I've got the emotion and the intention and the way that the characters are being, right? Which is louder than anything else in the world. And my intention for men who participate in our curriculum, men listening to the Queen's Code and finding out why women emasculate men, is that men become impervious to being emasculated, that you become impervious to being diminished, that you can look into her eyes and see the fear and frustration and sense of powerlessness that is behind that vicious or offhand disrespectful comment, that you can see it and know it has nothing to do with you. This is not personal. And yeah, that's at every level, it would change our experience of life and how we respond.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of the reactivity that we experience in relationship with each other would disappear, because we would just be, as you said, we would respond to the depth of maybe pain or desire or want or need, or like the true expression that's behind the harsh words or the way it comes out of our mouths, but actually what's deep really behind it. It's not just active listening, it's like feeling into the person in front of you and feeling what's behind what they're saying and then responding to that. So someone might scream in your face about the dishwasher and you didn't do it, and you might go, honey, I really get it. You feel really underappreciated. And I can see where what I've done has made you feel that way. Let's go do X, Y, and Z. And that's a very simplistic explanation, but it's actually leaning into what is like underneath what's being said, getting to the, what's it called? The feeling of it, not just the kind of surface level content.
Yes. And when I found out I was bringing out the worst in men, which is because that was the accusation of my colleague that I was sitting in the seminar with, like Kimberly in the Queen's Code, I was thrilled to find that out, because the alternative was that men are assholes. That's just who they are, period. And so when I like realized, oh my gosh, I'm a frog farmer. I'm turning princes into frogs. Well, if I'm doing it, I could stop doing it. And I'd been involved in transformation for over a decade at that point. So I already knew what was possible in my ways to cause who I am. And it took a very long time. It was, wow. It was probably 17 years of teaching women and men and learning as I was teaching to know that I could write the book that I knew I had to write a year into studying men. And what I had to sort out were three parts. What triggers women to diminish another person, which isn't just men, by the way. Wish it was, at least that it was limited. No, we do it to everybody. So what triggers it? How do we do it? And then what I found out was the linchpin was, how do we justify doing it? And so that someone deserves that because. And I started, after I gave up emasculating men and started talking to other women about it, what would show up is their justification. And the women who participate and the men who participate in our curriculum now are invited to do the same, not to try to just stop doing something that's instinctual and born of both instincts and wounds and shame, which is a kind of wound. It's, instead of that, if we consciously make the executive prefrontal cortex human spirit choice to give up, literally give up justifying. We give up the right to justify diminishing other people. If we give up the right to justify it, then we can catch the behavior, ideally without self-recrimination, which self-recrimination has the word criminal in it, without treating ourselves like criminals, that we did something triggered by instincts that honestly aren't even human instincts. They're much more primitive than any evolving that we attribute to our species. And so, but that choice, if we can disconnect the sequence by consciously giving up the right to do it, giving up the right to justify doing it because of something about that person. And I've heard everything. Men deserve to be emasculated because you're all rapists. What the fuck? That is so wrong. It's so not true. But instinctually, we'll treat every man as if he is one. And I'm so sorry, right? Or that men are stupid because you process information differently than we do. That you're stupid. That you're self-centered because of your instinct for self-preservation, which is, we've already gone into, right? Like, you have no right to self-preservation. That's ridiculous, right? Or that you're shallow and superficial, or I'm sorry, David, but I questioned whether men had souls. When Yeah, I really wondered. I knew I would have bet my life on, and did in the way that I lived it, that you were a lesser kind of human than women. Completely bought into that. Oh, the world would be a better place if women ran it.
Mm.
No, that's not true. That is not true at all. So it, but we assign things like one woman justified by men have more power and they abuse it. And what was interesting, David, is as I interacted with individual women, whatever their justification was also something that prevented them from being provided for in that particular way. Like, prevented them from allowing and inspiring and receiving a man using his power for her, using his intellect for her, using his knowledge for her, using his like whatever we think about, you guys, it cuts us off from so many ways that you could contribute to us if we were willing to appreciate that you're going to do it differently than me.
So as you say that, I think of the kind of common narrative, right, we have about men, that men are useless at relationship. They don't want to commit. They are lazy. They are abusive, like in all those ways. And in relationship sense, and I'm not minimizing that some men are exactly that way. But because this has become the kind of common narrative, the predominant narrative that is talked about publicly through media and social media, I think I'm using this correctly, you correct me if I'm wrong. So that becomes this narrative that women are holding. So it means that the connection and love and relationship they want is blocked because of the narrative they hold about who men are and their justification for speaking about men in a particular way.
Speaking about, thinking about, interacting with, conveying in every word and gesture. But it was funny, David, as you were naming those things, my mind was generating lazy, dictionary definition, unwilling to work. Yes, there's something called the worth it calculation. Men are only willing to invest in things with an ROI. And I did a program a couple months ago called Feels Like Love, Looks Like Math. And all the things we want other people to do that would have us feel loved, that we actually are the source of the why they don't do it.
Mm.
And yeah, so you said that one, you said, so lazy, non-committal, testosterone creates a committal brain. Your brain is designed to be committal. You're the opposite of non-committal. You're just much smarter at commitment. You're going to commit to the things that are worth doing, that you have evidence you can win at it. What? And
Yes.
you got to win at it. You've got to win. Otherwise, you're going to die. Fundamental. So and what's so beautiful is that when you all commit yourselves, which you do all day long, by the way, you're committed in what you're doing now, and then you transition to committing to the thing you're going to do next. And it's gorgeous, actually. It's women who are non-committal. It's women who for whom loyalty is a huge challenge because of our instincts. We pick a horse to ride to safety, and then another horse is coming by faster. The instinct to jump. It's like, it's so gross. It's so very gross. So let's see. So you said lousy at relationships. Women suck equally at relationships, and everyone sucks equally at relationship, because the secret is there's no such thing. They don't actually exist. And if you aren't paying attention to it, it isn't there. It doesn't live in some vault. somewhere, which is actually great. You don't have to constantly be making up for what happened in the past, but you also can't count on the love in the past to carry us through the present moment where we're being brutal to each other, right? So that's not true. Lazy, no. I mean, for women, we care. Our brains cause us to care about everything. So we don't protect our energy. And so we're exhausted. And then we don't have what you need from us most. You need our life force. You need which only flows to you when we're paying attention to you. And when we're distracted by everything in our environment, you don't get our attention. You're right there starving. I'm so sorry. Okay, I forget what you said after that because you triggered so many thoughts with the things that you were listing.
No, I forgot. I want to change direction a little bit. And I think there's some of the things that you have already mentioned, but I think it's a good question to ask. Is from your extensive research, like, what do men most deeply want from a woman, both like generally in life, but also in relationship?
I would say men want that life force flowing towards them, where we recharge your battery. It's possible to be able to recharge your battery more than anything else you do in your life to recharge your battery. Just touching our skin. If we are full of life, touching our skin recharges you. You want from us that we would be a place where you can just be you and not have to protect and to be. All right, I'm going to just get like just down to a very simple life thing. Okay. Early on in my relationship with Dan, which it's not, my partnership with Dan, the first time I visited his house, I came upstairs and of course he was focused, so he wasn't aware I was there, or he might have been, and he belched. And I didn't like it. I felt disrespected. And so I told him, I actually, like, after I chilled out, I said, when I'm in the room and you burp or belch, it would be honoring of me if you said, "Excuse me." I didn't know how perfect a way it was to put that, but I was trying to see really what would it be? It'd be honoring of me. I had felt disrespected, which is kind of dishonor. It'd be honoring if he said, "Excuse me." He goes, "Really? That would be honoring of you?" And I said, "Yes." And so he picked it up. And in the beginning, it was so cute. He goes, "Excuse me." It sounded like a boy, right? But it was adorable because he was doing it for me. But what made me laugh right then was that the same thing crossed over to passing gas, to farting, to whatever you want to call it. It crossed over to that. And what I got to do because of how honoring he is I got to get to a place of acceptance of something that I had been definitely imprinted on. Like, I didn't even know that grown-ups farted. I thought only brothers farted, which they'd like to do on my head, right? So to accept this very human behavior and even to turn it into something that's play and connection. And I came out of my part of Dan's house. I live in a wing of his house. And I came out of it and I heard this like duck quacking over the railing downstairs. And as I said something, I was like, "Wow, that was really a quacker." And he's like, "Oh, excuse me. I didn't know you were there. I farted." I said, "You're under no obligation to say excuse me when you don't even know I'm there." But it's just, what does a man want? He wants life force and he wants acceptance. It's okay to be human. It's okay to be himself. What he needs is valid, and worth honoring. And y'all need to be admired and appreciated, truly, for who you are, like your character. It's what most men want to be admired for, the most, and also admired and appreciated for everything that you do. You take care of so many people. You whatever you own as your territory, what you hold yourself accountable for is beyond most women's conception of men. Because almost all men dodge being held accountable for behaving like a woman, which we're always trying to hold you to account for that you should have done what a perfect woman would have done. Women assume you don't hold yourself accountable for anything. And you know this because of your work with men. What is one of the biggest barriers for men? Overcoming shame. What is the source of shame? What men hold themselves accountable for. And that what they think they should have done or should have prevented in order to protect other people. And we don't know that you're doing that. And even if you express it, I'm so ashamed of myself. And I don't mean someone shaming you. That's horseshit. It's between you and you. Shame requires no audience. When you express it, what we're present to is how bad you feel. And we hate for people to feel bad. So we try to talk you out of it. Like, oh no, you couldn't have been there. You couldn't have overcome that. No, that wasn't your responsibility. It's silly for you to hold yourself accountable for that. And basically what we're saying is, honey, you're not Superman. Not knowing that that's your standard. You try to be Superman. In your definition of greatness, you try to be that. And that's for to say, no, you're not really that. We just make it worse. So acceptance, being seen, being admired, respecting and honoring the standards you hold yourself to and how beautiful they are. Even granting that you have good reasons. You have good reasons for what you do, which doesn't mean you don't make a mistake, but where you came from is likely to provide. Or where you came from is having been driven back to protecting yourself. I could probably keep going on and on because there's so much that you need from us that we can give you. You need our playfulness, which you're so much more playful than we are. But when we're safe enough to play, when we feel safe enough to play, the life force, right, that flows to you, you need our sensual energy. You need our sexual validation of you, that you're awesome. You need us to love your bodies. I don't know if I know any man who loves his body. You're not built to love your body. By the way, I just realized, David, that we're coming close to the end. And if I don't say the thing that I found out in May, you're going to be bombarded.
No,
What's
we'll
the
get
cave
there.
behind the cave?
What was the thing that the cave behind the cave that you learned?
Okay, well, now, given the setup, now your response has a lot more weight already added. The phrase was expressed by a man: the ever presence of death.
Yeah.
Since May, it's just been unfolding. Everything you guys do and don't do, it makes sense of. and did an interview about a month ago. Young man, probably not even in his 30s. When I said it, is it Romania? It was his first English interview. And when I said it, he said, yes, I often at night before I fall asleep think I could have died today, or I might die tomorrow. And one of the things that it just opened up just a couple days ago was how it makes perfect sense of the pursuit of pleasure. It makes perfect sense. Like, yeah, this might not be healthy, but it tastes so good, right?
Yeah.
Well, if I can die tomorrow, if I could have died today and die tomorrow, why not? And that it's, for years I've been studying that men only take care of their bodies if they need their bodies to succeed at what they're committed to succeeding at. Actors will take care of their bodies if they're that kind of actor, right? My husband took care of his brain because that's what he needed, was his brain. He didn't need his body. And so just seeing it instinctually, a man will only take care of his body if he has a purpose for it. And there's instinctually, the point is to succeed. But if he doesn't invent a purpose that sustains him from day to day, like a reason to live, a reason to have a healthy body, it's just normal. So this struggle I had with my husband and the struggle I've had with Dan for the 5 years that we've been together, the compassion and understanding that he will take care of his body to be with me, which means I have to hold that boundary. And I would like to relax that boundary. But I can't relax that boundary because of how he's put together. That boundary supports him. And he's healthier now than he's been in probably 2 or 3 decades. And
Wow.
One of his daughters was just in tears on Thanksgiving, thanking me for how me being in their father's life has changed everything. So when you were nodding, what were you thinking about the ever-presence of death?
Yeah, the ever-presence of death. You think about, especially it's become more alive for me since I've had a child, right? So if I die, then what's present, what's there for him, because he's only small, for my partner. So it's something that I think about. I must say, I think about a lot more now than before. And some of it's deliberate. There is some times in life where I've deliberately contemplated and meditated on death, because I feel in our society it's something we kind of unconsciously push away and pretend is never going to happen. Mm-hmm. When in fact, I can see a usefulness in thinking about death, because it means that we start to live accordingly, not necessarily in this hedonistic way of like, okay, today's my last day, I can just do whatever I want, kind of YOLO, but more from a case of preparation. Yes. Or making use of the day, of myself and who I am, and so forth. So I can see a useful in that. But I definitely think about death a lot more than I used to. And even like how easily it can happen, right? How easily, I can be driving somewhere and I can just hit by another car, which I drive every day pretty much. And the impact on my family and so forth that would have. Yes. And the importance of maybe having things in order to be of support and provide beyond my lifetime.
Yes. I know I'm going to be unpacking this. I revoked all promises for when the sequel to the Queen's Code will come out, because I don't, it might take another 17 years for me to unpack this, because it's the cave behind the cave. And people may wonder, why don't women know this? And I would say that for women, it has to do with our connection to spirit, whether we acknowledge it or not. Our are relating to the eternal in a way that has us think we have unlimited time and energy. And what we have is the ever presence of the fear of being hurt. We're not afraid of death. We're afraid of pain. Physical pain, being hurt, emotionally being hurt, criticism, mentally being hurt, our sense of self being hurt. That's our ever presence. And it's, wow, this is fascinating. So one of the gifts I think women give to men is purpose. Like the men who have said, when a woman I care about needs something, I have a purpose. Right? When she needs me, I have a purpose. And what you guys can give to us is a place where we stop, like there's a pause button on the fear of being hurt. That when we experience your acceptance, which is how men commit, you accept the whole package. You pick up the whole package. That's stunning to women. That kind of acceptance and the willingness to do what it takes the moment you perceive that we were hurt to restore us. These are gifts I think we have to give to each other, between men and women and women and men, in those personal relationships. How we work it out at a global level, I'll be inquiring into.
It's a whole different conversation, that one.
But actually the same, right? It's fractal. It's
Thank you, Alison. Thank you for just the wisdom and these, just not just the wisdom, like you showing up for men, for women, and supporting men and women in ways that they can connect more deeply beyond the kind of narrative, beyond the superficial, beyond the pretense of us thinking we know the other, and supporting people in actually learning about each other beyond our, like I said, the narratives that we've been told of. Men often get told about women by other, so we say, other dysfunctional men. Women are like this. They only want this. And women get messages about what men want or what men who are from other dysfunctional women. And then we live from this place of what we've heard is true, and then we can't connect. So I'm just a big thank you for you for all these years of work of like gifting people like research-backed understanding of each other so we can connect and love and grow and spiritually evolve. It's just so beautiful to receive and to see.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I oh my gosh, what did you say? The way you said it just like went completely in and like vibrated. The pretense of thinking we know the other. I think that's what you said, but how you said it, who you were being when you said it, you are grounded in that. You know that in your bones. That was hot. That was really hot. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I imagine the listeners are wondering where they can find out more about you, find your books, find your programs. Like, where does someone go to find about Alison and her wonderful work?
All of what I've done is on our website, AlisonArmstrong.com, including, depending on what if people want to like sample, there's free stuff. And plus, there's a jillion hours on YouTube because I'm, teaching my ass off. and then there's, if you want to consume, like if you want to consume information, we have a whole list of products and bundles of products that go together. And then there's, if you want to be a student, do you truly want to be a student of this? And we have an entire curriculum that is like, it's been built and refined and flows one into the other, and you can do it one at a time, or you can buy the whole package. And I interact regularly with our students. I spend over 10 hours a month interacting with our students and answering their questions and helping them implement and making connections between different aspects of our curriculum. And all of that's at AlisonArmstrong.com. And a lot of people go to Audible to find me, which is totally fine. We also have that stuff on our website, but I have not given Audible anything that was recorded since 2003, I think. So it's all over 20 years old. I'll sound a lot younger. It's all valid. All of this is holistic, and where it comes from. I think there's 4 things I've revised or taken back in 30 years of being recorded. Like that men have 5 layers of protection against criticism, not 4. It's the worth it calculation, not the worth it equation. If it equates, it's not worth doing. So Audible's legit, but if you're done with Audible and you want to come over into the last 22 years, come to AlisonArmstrong.com.
Fantastic. And listeners, I implore you to go and pop over and consume. There's so much wonderful knowledge. We only you didn't even scratch the surface here. It's something lesser than that what we got through today. And last thing to say to listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, share it with somebody, say it with a man, a woman in your life who needs to hear this. And I've just finished up by saying a big thank you to Alison again for today, for being on the show, and saying ciao to listeners. Thank you for listening.